Hello everybody, my name is Lukáš and right now I will be talking about Android COVID-19 threats. I have been working for ESET antivirus company. I have been analyzing Android malware for last 7-8 years, mainly focusing on Android malware and also app vulnerabilities. Today I would like to share with you a topic of COVID-19 theme Android malware. Well, last year, would no one expect such topic being presented in here, right? But in 2020, everything has changed. Not only for us, but also for the bad guys, for the threat actors. They switched from their current campaigns, current schemes, to new ones, exploiting vulnerable users that were searching, and that time, bear in mind, there was not that many information, and everything was actually new for them. They were searching for information about the pandemic situation, how many people are infected, are there any cases in their country, what are the symptoms, can they travel abroad, and many, many others. Bad guys knew about that and created fake websites and deliver malicious apps. Since this is not only about the tracing problem, about the symptom identifiers, but also staying in touch with people we like, with love, our family, our friends, our colleagues, our coworkers, our employees. Because of that, they will also identify malicious Zoom apps. Actually, this is the first time for me that I have seen so many different malware types that impersonated one theme, one topic, which is coronavirus. In upcoming slides, I will go through an analysis of these different malware categories, showing you what it does, the distribution vector, and also functionality examples. I believe this is okay with you. Let me start. So let's start with the first malware category, Android ransomware. This one was discovered by Domain Tools in the beginning of the pandemic situation in the March. It was distributed through a malicious website impersonating coronavirus tracker, the tracker that shows you the heat map with a number of victims all around the world. However, when user downloads and launches this app, it's not a tracker, but Android ransomware that would or locker that would lock the smartphone and allegedly encrypts all the files on the smartphone and sends them to the attacker server. Fortunately, this was not right. This was not correct because it doesn't actually encrypt any files or sends them to the attacker server. And in this case, we see that how threat actors were trying to act that fast, that quickly, that they didn't even create this malware properly. Their goal was to distribute it as soon as possible. During my analysis, I find out there are two versions of this ransomware. The first one requested ransom $100, the second one $250. The point of the malware was to lock the smartphone, request the code. Once user enters the code to a lock screen, device gets unlocked. After start, it would just display notification running in the background to mimic some activity, like file encryption, which was not right, not correct. Further on, I find out that the key to unlock the smartphone was actually hard-coded. It means it was the same for every device, every user. And because of that, we at that time immediately informed our followers on Twitter to, if you stumble upon this website, you downloaded the app, please do not pay any ransom. Just use the key to unlock your smartphone. And don't worry, your files, your data were not shared with anyone nor encrypted. This was the first ransomware identified, again, March this year, not that sophisticated. 2 months after, I find out new ransomware, sophisticated one, that was distributed through two fake websites, two domains, impersonating COVID-19 tracing app for Canada. Of course, this was false, this was fake. There's even this huge button, get it on Google Play. It wasn't available on Play Store. Interesting is that this scheme was distributed only a couple days after when the government of Canada promised backing up of the development of a legit COVID-19 tracing app. The purpose of this ransomware was to encrypt all the files on the device and then left the contact for the attacker that victim needs to send email to this bad guy, and most likely then it would request to pay a ransom to exchange files back. How it looks from the victim perspective: after installation and launching, it would pop the notification personal files were encrypted, see the readme _now.txt. Ransomware would encrypt 15 different file types, mostly media file types, on external media using dynamically created AES key, not as the one before it was hard-coded into the code of the malware. To all files, it would add .anc extension, and in every subdirectory on external media creates readme now.txt file, which contains information, contact information of the attacker. I of course contacted the author of the malware, and I still haven't got any reply, and it's like 2 months right now. During researching this ransomware, I identified that this crycryptor was based on open source ransomware called CryDroid. It was available on GitHub. It's not anymore. We notified the GitHub, of course, but I believe it was taken down and removed from Git by the author of this repo. Interesting thing is that one day after this CryDroid was published on GitHub, this one of the malicious domain I showed you before was actually registered. So this bad guy acted really fast, really quickly to exploit that. When I analyze lockers, ransomwares, I always try to think about the possible ways how to unlock a smartphone, how to decrypt files back to the user. And in this case, I was really lucky because I identified a security issue, vulnerability in this ransomware, where it would export a component. This component was a service, and this service was responsible for encrypting and decrypting files without knowing the actual key. It means that any third-party application installed on a smartphone could encrypt files using the ransomware or decrypt files. And because of that, I created CryDecryptor tool, which helps victims getting their files back, encrypt them back without paying any ransom. Now I would like to show you a video where I will demonstrate its functionality of the ransomware, as well as CryDecryptor. Here's my smartphone connected to my laptop using a cable, and on the right side you see a tracer shield, which is CryDecryptor ransomware and CryDecryptor. I will, in the background, using my laptop, monitor all the files accessed by this ransomware, where I can also see the AES key, as well as I can hook all the remote files. After launching the ransomware, user needs to allow access to externals permission. If user denies that, ransomware cannot work properly, of course. And now in the background, you see which files are accessed by ransomware. After ransomware is done, it pops notification files were encrypted. It's not clickable, so I have to go to a file manager and verify that by refreshing my screenshot folder. Files got .anc encryption extension. And there's some problem with the video, but afterwards I will run the CryDecryptor, which would encrypt all the files, decrypts all the files back to the user. Feel free to check the video on YouTube. I will send a link in comments. So that was the sophisticated ransomware that was distributed 2 months before in June. That actually could encrypt all the file and left the comments for the context for the bad guy. Now let's move to another category of malware being distributed, which is spyware. I divided this category into two: commercial spyware and the open source spyware. Firstly, let's go through a commercial one. I believe many of you heard about the spy node. It's commercial spyware, but the builder of the spy node was actually leaked. It means that it was accessible. Now it's accessible to actually anyone. So anyone without any deep knowledge of the development, for example, can create such malware. By using that, it accesses all the necessary permissions that allows bad guy to spy on the victim. Another commercial one is a SpyMax, which is allegedly built, created by the same author as a spy node, was distributed through a fake pharmacy website. Now let's continue with the open source spyware Adabot, not that popular. It was distributed in the Middle East, fully spies on the victim. During the pandemic, there were even created a new spyware families, such as Project Spy, identified by Trend Micro. It can fully spy on the victim and also provides the real coronavirus updates to the user with a number of victim cases all around the world. Then I identified a new spyware. I call it Uzbekistan Spy, since it targets some people in Uzbekistan, only in Uzbekistan. Again, this is a newly developed during the pandemic. It could steal pictures, contact lists, text messages, even installed applications. Also, it contains a real functionality that shows a number of cases all around the world. So let's move to another category, not that popular for Android ecosystem, SMS worm. This was identified by a Scalar company, again in the beginning of the pandemic situation in the March, when, if you remember, there was a deficit of the safety masks, and the scam should give you one of the masks if you download the application and install that. Of course, this is not right. After installation and launching of this app, it would send text message to all your contacts with a URL link that either spreads the same scheme by our mask or downloads the malicious app to widely spread it or further to your friends. Let's continue with the Trojanized or patched malware. Bad guys also exploited a real government or a private sector created tracing app. This one was found in Italy, SM COVID-19. On the left side is original app. On the right side is the malicious one. As you can see the difference between the permissions. Most of them, dispatched apps, are created using a Metasploit. It means it's a framework, I believe many of you know that, framework that it's enough to run a couple of scripts that would inject the official application with a malicious code. The app still works, and the attacker can create a metadata or reverse shell to control infected device. I did analysis of this particular Trojan on quick analysis on Twitter. At the same time, also my fellow colleague researcher from AWS, Nikolaos, did the same thing and published it on Twitter. And we see that malware actors are following our job, our work, since he contacted me as well as Nikolaos. He's a really gentleman malware developer, since he even calls us mistresses, even though we disclosed his malware and make it public. So let's continue with adware. I believe you know the purpose of the adware app, displaying unwanted advertisement, where the owner of the adware gets revenue from the ads. Besides adware, there were also hidden ads as well as jokers. These can hide after installation, after launching the app, and perform ad clicks, ad fraud to generate ad revenue for the developer in the background, so user can't actually see any ads. Now let's move to one of the most widespread categories, Android banking Trojans. I'll show you a lot of examples right now. Most of them, well, all of them, were distributed through fake website impersonating legitimate service. Statistically said, malware families, the most popular malware families that were distributed during this pandemic last months, were Cerberus banking Trojan, Anubis banking Trojan, and the GIMP. So let's start with this first one. Fake website allegedly says will show you the spread of the pandemic. There's even double part of the WHO logo, a huge button, get it on the Play Store, which is again false. It's a fake app, will be downloaded from the malicious actors' websites directly. Similar in here, see the number of death cases. Again, allegedly by WHO, which is not right. They even include biohazard logo. This is the fake website compensating citizens' financial loss being distributed in Italy, and it promises 600 euros from the government if you download our application. Of course, if you download the app, you will not receive any 600 euros, but you will end up having installed Android banking Trojan. This was popular theme being distributed using different language mutations in Italy, French, Spain, and even Turkey. Again, a huge button getting on Play Store. For this case, I even prepared a video demonstration. I'll show you in a couple of slides later on how it looks from the victim perspective, from the installation visiting the website until the device is compromised by the malware. So stay tuned for that. Let's continue with the fake California public health website. Do you know how to properly wear a mask? If not, you can watch a video. But well, first you have to install Media Player, which is a malware in this case. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Join our research, download our application to fight COVID-19. This was distributed mostly in the United Kingdom. You will end up with banking Trojan, fake government websites, and was a state support for claimed it was state support for every family who will apply in a mobile app. Allegedly gives 1,000 Turkish lira, which was approximately 130 euros. Similar scam in here. Even go in the domain, play button. Fake Italian Ministry of Labor and Social Policies. If you install the app, we donate 500 euros to the most needy ones. Fake Spain Ministry of Health, Social Services. Install our application for the self-assignment. Similar one in here, but in this case, it was distributed a GIMP banking Trojan. By the way, GIMP, during the communication with the CNC, even leaks victim personal information. One distributed in Thailand. Download our app to receive latest updates about the COVID-19. Travel permit documents that allows citizens to travel. Of course, this was a fake. You need to apply if you want to travel abroad, go on for a holiday, you have to download our app and apply. Fake. And not only new spywares were created, but also new banking Trojans, like this one called Nautilus bot. It's not that new, if you ask me, because it's based on the open source or leaked code of Anubis 2.1. So it's an old friend. Fake websites impersonating Google Play Store. In this case, it's a COVID-19 tracing app created by the government in Turkey. And last one in here that even shows the elementary mistakes created by the bad guys, since they even misspelled COVID for COVID. And here we see that their goal was not to create a proper malware, but spread it as soon as possible, as fast as it could, to distribute to vulnerable users. Now I'll show you a video demonstration of Anubis Banking Trojan that was distributed through a fake website. You can see on the left side my smartphone, and on the right side a burp suit, where I will show you the proxy interception communication between the infected device and the CNC and vice versa. After clicking on Google Play button, malware is downloaded and requests to install us. And we can see the name of the app is 20 GB. For some reason, this is a huge red flag, but still over 170 users install that. After opening the app, it asks victim to activate accessibility services. By doing that, malware can now perform various actions, various clicks on behalf of the user. Right now, it would deactivate Play Protect by itself without user interaction and starts to communicate with the CNC by gathering information about the device, which apps are installed, what banking apps, financial apps are on the device. Receive response from the remote server controlled by the attacker, and now by itself, it activates all the necessary permissions. Get access to contacts, text messages, external media. Again, tries to deactivate Play Protect by itself and get access to notifications. By getting access to notifications, malware can intercept received text messages from the bank, and also it can close all the suspicious notifications that are coming from the mobile banking applications, such as from your account was just sent $100 to some other account. These notifications will be killed. So that was example of how this scheme actually worked from the victim perspective. Now the question is, how I know that there were 170 infected devices? Well, during my research, I find out on this CNC server that was controlled by the bad guy, logs from some of the victims that had installed this malware, and there were 177 infected devices. Since I mentioned, so that's it for the malware category, finishing it up with the banking Trojans. Since I mentioned this was not only about tracing, about the symptoms, but also staying in touch with our friends, family, colleagues, Bitdefender identified malicious Zoom apps being distributed in the wild. Most of them were patched. A real Zoom application downloaded from a Google Play was patched with malicious code created by the Metasploit. Zoom could then still work. It means you can still perform the calls, but in the background, malware would create a reverse shell or a metapredator, and your device is then controlled by the bad guy. Not only Metasploit patched apps were found, but also adware. So during the call, you could have ads popping up, or a hidden ad. It means it would be responsible for ad fraud clicks in the background using Zoom features. Now let's go through a quick recap. Threat actors acted immediately, as you have seen from the March. For me, it was a cluster of threats that I haven't seen before. All different malware types representing, mimicking one topic, mostly distributed through fake websites or text messages, or I even saw a couple of apps being distributed, spread through different channels or groups on social media. Most of the interesting ones were Android banking Trojans, represented by Cerberus, Anubis, and GIMP malware family. Quick update, if you are interested on Cerberus. I have been following this malware family since it was discovered on Underground Forum in last year in June 2019. Now Cerberus is open source. Version 1, version 2, backend, and all the injections are available on the internet for free. Because of that, I believe there might be in the future more Cerberus-based Trojans that could even mimic COVID-19 theme. And also communication apps, I mentioned Zoom. Since many of us still work from home because of the outbreak, we spend much more time online, cruising the internet, shopping, and searching for the latest updates about coronavirus. And these times, we are end up downloading a malicious app impersonating legitimate service. As you have seen in the slides before, people do that. Because of that, I advise you to download apps only from Google Play Store. So if you stay home, please stay safe. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you liked the topic. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.